Muscle-ups are awesome. I think it's a skill that every calisthenics athlete should learn. They look really cool, and also I personally just love the way they feel. Now, before you start trying muscle-ups, I would highly recommend you can do at least 6 strict pull-ups and 3 full range of motion dips. Now, obviously, the more of these you can do, the better. These are just bare minimums. Having a decent level of strength will help you unlock the muscle-up faster. So for that reason, I recommend some time to work on your strength. And my 2 favorite exercises I utilize is number 1, good old-fashioned pull-ups, and number 2, the negative muscle-up. So pull-ups, probably my favorite exercise of all time, and a brilliant way to develop your back strength. There are people who can do 20 strict form pull-ups, yet they can't get the muscle up. Now you might wonder, well then why should I work on my pull-ups? If you have a solid level of back strength and a decent pull-up ability, by learning the correct technique and just developing the right motor patterns to do a muscle-up, you can translate your pull-up strength to muscle-ups quite well. And then in the future, you'll learn things like the slow muscle-up or the no-dip muscle-up way much more easier than someone that doesn't have the pull-up strength but has the technique for muscle-up down. Second exercise, the negative muscle-up. Super simple. Try to find yourself like a low or medium-high bar. If you don't have a low bar, then just climb, do whatever you can to get on top of a high bar, but try to find a low bar, get on top of it, and all you're going to do is basically a muscle up in reverse. All I want you to do is try go down and control yourself as well as possible. In the future, this is going to help it become a lot more like second nature for you to get your chest over the bar when you eventually go for the muscle ups. So take your time, work on your pull-ups and work on your negative muscle up. Onto the technique. The first thing you're going to look at is the difference between an actual normal pull-up and a muscle up. Now when you're doing a pull-up, it's quite obvious, you're just traveling straight up and down. But when you do a muscle up, you can't do that because the bar is in the way. So you actually have to arc up and around the bar. And that's what makes the starting portion of a muscle up so important. So in order to generate that arc, we have to get a bit of a swing going. You can do this by either jumping on the bar from slightly behind or by just kicking your legs gently. But please, no crazy swinging. You want to keep your body in relatively a straight line. So that's the first thing I want you to work on, is just getting comfortable generating that light little swing. Once you're comfortable with that, the next thing we're going to look at is your actual grip on the bar. Now for a beginner, the best grip to go for is something called the false grip. And that's because the more leverage you have with your wrists over the bar, the easier it's going to be for you to actually clear your chest. And on the opposite end, if you're hanging by just your fingers, you're going to have to generate a lot of force for your wrist to be able to rotate fully around the bar. So to do a false grip, I honestly don't know why it's called a false grip because I find it pretty damn useful. You want to lie the fleshy part of your thumb, the base of your wrist or your palm, on top of the bar, and then just cup your fingers over. There's no real way for you to do this besides practicing. It can feel super uncomfortable in the beginning. I used to hate the false grip, but now it doesn't faze me at all. So you might also just want to practice hanging in this position. So once again, just the fleshy portion at the base of your palm or right by your thumb, lay that on top of the bar and then cup your fingers over and keep your wrist nice and strong. Okay, so we've got a false grip and we're generating the swing nice and gentle. Next, when do we start pulling? Now this is crucial because if you get it wrong, you're probably doomed from the start. At the apex of your swing, right before your body starts to drift backwards, so your body is now drifted in front of the ball, just before it's about to drift back, that is when you start pulling. I mean, you can practice it a little bit just to get a feel for it, but quite simple. Once you reach that apex and just before your body go backwards, that's when you pull. Now, when you pull, there are 2 main things to think about. First thing is you want to go from somewhat of an arched body shape to a hollow body shape, and that's going to make it possible for you to get your chest around and over the bar. Because if you keep an arch shape like you would for normal pull-ups, because you're trying to get maximal back contraction, you're essentially just pushing your chest into the bar. I mean, it's pretty much impossible for your chest to get over the bar. So it's incredibly important once you start pulling, you go from an arched to a hollow body shape in order to get your chest over the bar. That's something you can also practice with little drills where you're just practicing going from arch body to hollow body, arch to hollow body. That's number 1. The second thing to focus or think about is that unless if you're doing a slow muscle up, a muscle up is a very explosive exercise. That means that you want to generate as much force as possible, and therefore for beginners, there's literally nothing wrong with kipping. Everyone should start out by kipping, and then over time you can try and make it more and more strict. Once you start pulling, you want to pull as fast and as hard as humanly possible, and at the same time, bring your knees up towards your chest. By bringing your knees up towards your chest, once you start pulling, it's going to help give you an extra bit of a nudge, like a little extra oomph. And once again, you want to be as explosive as possible and pull as hard as you can. So if you've never done a muscle before, another thing that helps a lot is music, getting yourself amped up, getting yourself psyched. Everyone knows that when you start trying to do something, as the bass or the chorus drops, you get +10 to your strength. Get yourself psyched, get yourself amped. Hopefully you time it absolutely perfectly so that as the bass is about to drop, you reach that apex of your swing You go from arch to hollow body, you pull as hard as you possibly can, and your knees come up to your chest. If you do all of those things, maybe you got it, and if you did get it, you can give yourself a round of applause. If you didn't get it, you can also give yourself a round of applause because at least you attempted it, and very, very few people get it right the first time. Your body has to develop the motor patterns. As long as you have in your mind what you're trying to do, over time things are going to start clicking, and then eventually you're just going to make it up quite easily. And then from there, if you want to turn it into a strict muscle up, it's literally just repetitions. The more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to get, the stronger you're going to get. And then also you can just focus on squeezing your legs, having a bit less of a kip, until eventually you can keep them dead straight. From there, it's sort of like the world's your oyster. If you want to start working on slow muscle ups or that no dip muscle up, I'd highly recommend utilizing weighted pull-ups, which will help with your explosive strength. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the technique behind the muscle up. Don't be disappointed if you don't get it your first or second try. Just keep going, keep practicing. Eventually you will get it. If there's any other questions you might have, let me know in the comments. And yeah, all the best and enjoy your training. Cheers.